Hey guys, it's Emisky here. I welcome you all to episode 2 of our key level series. Also, I want to officially welcome our new viewers. Let's give them a round of applause. Okay, so please do also like, subscribe so you won't miss out on valuable content. Now, as a recap of the episode 1, we talked about introduction to key levels, right? And in that particular episode, we talked about how to identify key levels alongside their functions, right? Now, and we say that an A-shaped key level is used for sells in the market. We said a V-shaped key level is used for buys in the market. And we said an open close key level can either be used for buys or sells in the market. Now, we also gave some instances where an A-shaped key level that's supposed to be used for sells in the market, when disrespected, can be used for buys in the market, right? And also a V-shaped key level that's supposed to be used for buys in the market, when disrespected, can be used for what sells in the market, right? So that's that about introduction and identification of key levels, right? So for those of us who have not seen the video, let's do well to go back to episode 1 and watch it very well so you can gain proper understanding of other episodes, right? Now, in this particular series, in this particular episode, we'll be talking about high probability key levels. High probability key levels, right? Now, what are high probability key levels? These are, now, just like I was saying, that key levels are specific areas in the market where we expect buys or sells. Now, we expect buys might happen, it might not happen. Now, high probability key levels are zones or areas in the market that have a strong likelihood to react from. Now, these are zones or areas in the market where price have a strong likelihood to react from. Now, this reaction can be in form of what? Continuation or reversal of momentum, right? Now, the levels are called high probability because they are backed by certain criteria. Now, these are the criteria we were looking into in this session, right? Now, the first criteria is this, and it is the most important criteria for you to note in this session. Now, the first criteria is that it must be in line with structure. Now, structure is key, regardless of what you are doing in the market. If you're on the wrong side of structure, you are going to get burned out, right? Now, so a key level that is high probability, first of all, it must be in line with structure. No matter how juicy, no matter how sexy your key level looks, if it's not in line with structure, you will get burned out, right? So, in terms of structure, we have bullish structure and we have bearish structure. So if you are looking to take sales in the market, your key level must be in line with the bearish structure, right? Now, if you are looking to buy in the market, your key level must be in line with what buys in the market, a bullish indicator, right? Now, the next point to knock out is this: a key level that sweep liquidity and break structure is very valid. Now, a key level that's in line with structure, a key level that also sweeps liquidity and breaks structure is valid. Now, the next point to note is a key level that have liquidity resting above or below it is valid. A key level that have liquidity resting above or below it is valid. Now, let me put everything together. A key level that is in line with structure, sweeps liquidity, breaks structure, and have key level and have liquidity resting above or below it, depending on the structure, is very valid. Now, the fourth point to note is this: a key level that sweeps liquidity, break structure, have liquidity resting above or below it, and resting inside of an imbalance is valid. Now, like my mentor will always say, key level, my mentor will always say is that the aim of price is to do two things: attack liquidity and the balance hold imbalance. Now, the moment price attacks liquidity, it rebalances an imbalance. At what pricing level? That's where the key level comes in play. Now, the key level that's in line with structure, sweeps liquidity, breaks structure, have liquidity printed above or below it, and it's resting inside of an imbalance is valid. Now, the moment we have a break of structure in the market, what do we expect? We expect what? Reversals. We expect reversals in the market, right? Now, that reversals is to what? Take out what? Internal range liquidity. What is internal range liquidity? It's still liquidity. Now, a key level that have liquidity resting above it or below it, the moment price takes out that liquidity, what does it do? It taps that key level, and we expect sales in the market. Now, that's that about high probability key levels. Let me give us some pictorial examples of what I'm talking about before we dive right into the charts to find our examples, right? Now, the first point I say something that the key level must be in line with structure. Now, let's take, for example, we're in a bearish market condition like this, where we expect sales in the market, right? We expect sales from this market. right? Now, do not expect sales in the market. If I have a A-shaped key level here, right, in a bearish market condition, I have a A-shaped key level resting here, right? Now, what do I expect? This liquidity. What do I expect price to do? Take out liquidity, tap my key level, and continue sales in the market. In this market condition, can I be looking for buys? Yes, buys can come in form of reversals, but I will be only focusing on what sells. So therefore, I will be only focusing on what A-shaped key level or V-shaped key level that gets disrespected and can be used for sales. Now that's that about structure. Now let me go to the next point. A key level that sweeps liquidity and breaks structure is valid. A key level that sweeps liquidity or breaks structure is valid. Now in a bearish market condition, right, and I have a key level like this, I have sweep of liquidity and break of structure, right? A key level that sweeps liquidity and breaks structure is how it look like. Sweep liquidity off this high, break structure off this low. Now what do I expect from market? Price can come back, tap into that level and continue what sells in the market. Now let me now add liquidity to it. A key level that's in line with structure, a bearish market condition, it sweeps liquidity, it breaks structure in line with structure, right? And also it prints liquidity above or below it is valid. Now let's take for example, we have something like this. Price sweeps liquidity off a key level, breaks structure, prints liquidity below it. Now what happens next? I want to see that price come back, take out liquidity here, right? Tap into this key level, A-shaped key level here. Now what do we expect? Sales in the market. Now that's that about a key level that sweeps liquidity, break structure, and have liquidity printed below it. Now, in a scenario whereby we have sweep of liquidity, we have break of structure. Now, in this break of structure that happening here, we have an imbalance right here. Now, remember, we'll say something. We say that for other block traders, we'll say that another block that have imbalance resting below it is very valid. Also, a key level that is resting inside of an imbalance is very, very bad. Now, the moment we have this sweep and break, there's an imbalance here, and there's a key level inside this imbalance here. Now, what do we expect? The moment price comes back, brings liquidity close to it. Now, what happens? Price does what? Do two things. Attack liquidity. Price wants to take out liquidity out. Pack this key level here. And what do we expect? Sales in the market. So that's that about high probability key levels. Let's dive into the chart because I don't want to consume much of our time. I just want to make this class as explicit as possible and well detailed. So let's go to our chart and look for all these things I've been talking about, right? Let's go to our chart and look for examples of all what I have been talking about. Now, we are in a bearish market condition. We are looking for sales, right? We are looking for sales in the market. In the bearish market condition, we look for only sales in the market, right? So let me look for an example of what I'm talking about. Now, what do we have here? We have, because that we are coming from a bearish market. Now, the moment price took out this high, that giving us a signal for a reversal, right? For the reversal, that's price wants to transition from what? Bullish market to bearish market. From bearish market, to bullish market. Now we had a break of structure here. But for that break of structure, let's investigate very clearly. What do we have here? We have sweep of a low. We have sweep of this low here, right? And we have break of this high. Now what is this? This is my liquidity. This is my liquidity in my chart here. Very clear example of my liquidity. Now this is a V-shaped key level standing right here. This is a V-shaped key level standing right here. If you go to the line chart, you see very clearly. This is a V-shaped key level standing right here. Now what do we expect from V-shaped key level? We expect buys to occur from there. But the moment price tapped that level, what do we see? Price started to buy, and all the buys continued like that. Now let's investigate very clearly again. Let's also see an example here. We can also see an example of what we are looking up to see. Now we can see from here. So what do we see here? Sweep of liquidity here. Price swept liquidity off this low, right? Price breaks structure off this high, right? Now after the break of structure, what do we have? Price printed liquidity here. Price printed liquidity here. As the moment price printed liquidity, what do we do? Price came back into it, tap the V-shaped key level, continue its buy momentum. Like I can see, that's an example of a V-shaped key level meeting our criteria, right? Now let's look for more examples on the market. Now what do we have here? We have a key level here. We have a key level right here. We have sweep of liquidity up this high. Right, we have sweep of liquidity up this high. Now what do we have? We have break of a low. If you go to your line chart, it's very clearly there. You can see it. We have break of this low right here. Right, we have break of this low. Now back to candle chart. What do we have? We have liquidity printed above it. Right, so liquidity printed above it. Now what happened next? Price taps the A-shaped key level, and sold to the downside, right? That is an example of an A-shaped key level that meets our criteria doing its function. Now you can see from here as well, what do we have here? We have an imbalance. We have an imbalance here. Now inside this imbalance, what do we have? We have a key level resting inside it. Now see it here. That's super price. The price came back into it, tapped that level, and sold again in the market. Now these are examples of high probability key levels doing their function. Now what do we have here as well? We have sweep of a high here. Price swept this high here. What happened is after the sweep of high, price broke this low, right? It confirms what was our first criteria: sweep of liquidity, sweep of high, sweep of liquidity, and break of structure. Now we had the sweep of this high, break of this low, confirms what was our first criteria. What are we looking at for? Liquidity. What do we have here? Price printed liquidity close to this guy here. Now what happened next? Price taps either this open close key level, or let's say we define and we had this A-shaped key level here. After the tap, what happened? Price sold aggressively to the downside. Now that's an example of a high probability key level doing its function as well. Now you can see another example from here. The moment price broke here again, what happened? We had this key level resting inside of this imbalance. We had this key level here resting inside of this imbalance. Now what happened? You can see the liquidity preset close to it here. When the price took out the liquidity. Now in the quest for the balance this imbalance, we cut this key level here. Now remember, key levels are specific levels in the market. Now price wanted to do two things: attack liquidity here, then balance the imbalance here that we had here. Now what happened? While trying to debalance and imbalance, price start this key level and sales continuation occurred in the market. Now you can see these are examples of what high probability key levels in play doing their function as they are supposed to do it. Now let's look for more examples on the charts. Let's look for more examples on the charts. Let's look for more examples on the charts. For more examples on our charts, trying to get examples of high probability key levels. Now, if you see in the chart, we have lots and lots of key levels, but not all key levels are valid. We only play key levels that is in line with structure and meets our criteria, right? What are the criteria? It must sweep liquidity and break structure. It must have liquidity printed above or below it. It must also be resting inside of an imbalance. Now, all these criteria are what makes what key levels valid, right? All these criteria are what makes key level valid. Now, you have this one. You look at this key level here. It's resting inside of this imbalance. What do we see here? Price tapped it using for sales, for buys in the market. Price broke it again, still came back to it, tapped it again multiple times and used it for sales in the market. Why? It's a high probability key level, right? It's a high probability key level. I'm trying to look for more examples to show us of where high probability key level did their functions in the market. Now, what do we have here? We have sweep of this high. We have sweep of this high. We have break of this low. Confirms for us our first criteria. I want to see price must sweep liquidity and break structure, right? You can see this one doing its function here. Sweep of this high, break of this low. Now, what do we have here? We had liquidity printed here. It's the liquidity printed here. Now, what happened? Price took out liquidity. Where the price come to? Price came to this key level here. Open close key level inside of this imbalance. What the price tapped that level, and we saw how all this sells in the market. Now let's look for more one or two examples. So I can call this session off. Let's look for one or two more examples. On sweep liquidity, it must break structure. Like I see from here, what do we have here as well? We have price swept this high. Price swept this high. Now what happened is after this low high, price broke this low here. When price broke this low, what the price printed some form of liquidity here, right? Now you can see from here, we had an imbalance, right? We had an imbalance inside here. Now what the price do? Price swept liquidity, broke structure, printed liquidity for us. Now inside of this imbalance, what do we have? We have a V-shaped key level that got suspected. What the price do? Price ran into it, tapped it, and use it for sales continuation in the market. Now remember I said something that your key level must be used only if it is in line with structure. So before you do anything, always understand what structure is doing. Now, before you buy it from the market, price must have an intent for buyers. That means price must be in a bullish market. Now, before you sell in the market as well, price must have an intent for sell, or it must be in a bearish market, right? So that's that about high probability key levels. Now, before I wrap this section, I want to say one. Now, to wrap up this section, I want to say this. Not every A-shape, V-shape, or open close key level matters in the market. Only those with story and structure behind them matters. Now, what's the story? The story is the criteria I'm telling you about. That a key level must sweep liquidity, must be a structure, must have liquidity printed close to it, must be resting inside of an imbalance. Now, that's the story, and it must be in line with structure. High probability key level tells you why you should react to those certain levels. High probability key level, why you should react to those levels, but all key levels tell you where you might expect buys or sells. A normal key level tell you that, okay, you might expect buys might happen here, sales might happen here. But a high probability key level tells you why buy or sell will happen in the market. Now, this is a plus, this is a plus, this is a plus. A key level that is refined off a higher time frame key level is very, very strong. A key level that is refined off a higher time frame key level is very, very strong. Now, I won't say much about this. Why? Because in our next session, we'll talk about key level refinement. We'll be talking about that. So do well to like, subscribe, and anticipate the next video. Thank you very much for watching. To have a great day.